Hi everybody, my name is Jim. I'm the owner of Sprague Woodturning and welcome to my channel. So this is the last video in the platter series. Everybody's like, thank goodness, I never thought it was going to end. Anyway, again, we're using Boxelder Burl, and what we're going to do this time is we're going to actually stabilize these prior to using them. And I'm going to use them in the 14-inch form that I built for the first one. And we're going to do it on the bench. So I'll degas the resin when that time comes after we've got these stabilized and got them in my form. Anyway, that's this video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Anytime you give my videos a thumbs up, it certainly helps the analytics. And of course, anytime you can share my videos on your social media platforms is totally awesome as well. And again, don't forget to comment because that's where we're going to get the winner for the 25,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. So let's get over to the bench. I'll show you what we're going to do with this and we'll go from there. All right, so here's our two main pieces. I definitely want to keep all this kind of natural edge over here. Man, the mosquitoes are bad. So anyway, I've got a 14.5-inch template here, and I'm going to use this. I'm just going to make sure that it's covered on that side over there, the natural part. Draw this out. So there, that's an idea. We'll try and find another piece to fit in here. Doesn't look like we're really going to have much over here. Actually, I want to redo this. I want to bring this over a bit. Or do I? Yeah, I don't want any of this straight edge here. Anyway, when I cut this off, this piece is going to fall away from there anyway, so that's all right. Anyway, I'll just cut these out on the bandsaw and I'll be right back. As you can see, we've got our pieces cut. So we just got to clean them up with a brass brush and a drill. And I've got this little pick tool as well. It seems to work really nicely. And of course, a little brass brush. All right, so this is my vacuum chamber, and it's actually 15 3/4 by 11.5 deep. I haven't really got anything that will contain these, so I'm going to put the stabilizing resin right in the vacuum chamber. And what I'm going to do to take up all this extra room so that we don't need a ton of stabilizing resin is to use the old marble trick again. So I'm just going to fill this all up. This will take up any of the free space, and then we'll throw the resin in on it, and hopefully we've got enough. Watch your ears. So I'm using the same resin that I used when I did the stabilizing of the branches one. Artistic wood stabilizer. Now these are probably going to want to float. And I am sure that they are going to take up a lot of this resin. So I'm going to make sure that there's lots in here. I mean, you can see it already starting to come up, fill up, or sorry, bubble up. Now, when we put a vacuum on this, it's going to really, really foam up, I would suspect. Okay, so if you've never seen this done before, this is a stabilizing resin that I put in here. And what we're going to do is draw a vacuum on it. That will collapse the cell structure in the wood. And then when you release the vacuum, as it expands, it'll draw the resin in. And then this stuff is heat cured in an oven. Now I made sure that all these pieces will fit in the oven. My little toaster oven I got in the shop. So anyway, let's draw a vacuum, and you're probably going to see a ton of foaming. There's really not, I'm sorry, you really can't do much else for seeing this. But anyway, let's see how we make out. Look at the air coming out of that. Wow. Just goes to show you how rotten those things are. That's all right, we'll make it new again. Anyway, I'm gonna put a draw on this. I don't know for how long. Once I stop seeing bubbles come, then I'll probably just turn the vacuum off. I can close it off here, and then the vacuum will stay inside the pressure pot. And once the bubbles stop, then you know that all the air has been taken out of the wood, and then I'll release the vacuum, let it sit 24 hours, and then we'll heat cure it, and then we'll be ready to proceed with the rest of the project. I did put more marbles on top of the wood. That's probably why it's so dark looking. And that's just to keep weight on the wood and to make sure that we've got lots of resin, that it doesn't drop below the surface of the wood. That would be bad. Anyway, there's quite a difference already. I released the vacuum once, and you know, it really drawed in a bunch of that fluid. And yeah, there's quite, it's working pretty good there now still. Anyway, we'll see you in a bit. All right, so I left the vacuum on this all night. I didn't run the vacuum pump. I know some people are comfortable with doing that. I'm not. I just have visions of things catching on fire when I'm not here and losing my shop. But it had 27 inches of vacuum on it overnight. I ran this for about an hour this morning, and there is 0 bubbles coming up from the wood. So that tells me that, you know, it's got to be saturated with the resin, or we're going to get all the air out of it that we are going to get. So what I'm going to do now is take the vacuum off, and the fluid will now go into the wood since it's submerged in it. I'll leave that probably for 24 hours, and then we'll get it in the oven. Anyway, let's get the vacuum off this. And I can see the resin has dropped significantly since yesterday. There was no exposed marbles yesterday. So what I'm going to do, just to show how much resin is going to go into this, I'm going to take a measurement on the top of this to the wood, and then we'll see actually how much resin these pieces of wood soak up. So that's 1.25 inches is what we're going to, that's what the measurement is now. And I'll clear off a little spot so I know where it was. No, maybe not. Anyway, it was right there. 24 hours, we'll measure it again, and we'll see how much the level has dropped. So it's been 24 hours. I actually measured, and the resin is sitting at 1 1/8 inches. So I think it was 1.5 inches. I can't remember, but I think it was 1.5 inches. If that's the case, I mean, you look at the amount of resin that's gone into those pieces of wood. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff. Anyway, let's get them out and get them cooking. Yeah, big difference in weight. Huge. You know, and I didn't think of it, but I probably should have weighed them before and after. I can't think of everything. Very dense compared to what they were before. So I'm going to let this drip off a bit. I'm not going to wrap these in tin foil like some people do, especially with all of this. If you wrap this in tin foil, it's probably all going to solidify in here. So I'm going to clean off as much of this as I can before we heat cure it, because I don't want it to get all foamed up and cruddy looking. Even that little piece, it's quite surprising how heavy it is. Okay, that just goes to show you how rotten. I mean, Boxelder is not a real stable wood, or not a real heavy wood to begin with. But with it sitting around in the field, this stuff sat around for, I think Troy said 5 years before he did anything with it. So it's no surprise that, you know, it's taken up all this resin. So I'm just going to pad this dry, and hopefully we can get rid of all that excess resin. And I'm really only concerned about the top. And when I put them in the oven to dry, I'm going to put them upright like this. Hopefully any of the resin will run off of it, and any foaming that we get will be at the bottom. If we do get some in here, I mean, it's not a huge deal. Should be able to take it off with the brass brush in the drill. I think probably down in this area is important as well. If you don't get the majority out of there, it's probably going to foam up in there too. We're going to have to deal with it regardless. I'm just trying to limit how much of it we do have to deal with. There, for the most part, there's no standing resin anyway. Got our pieces inside toaster oven here. The instructions say 200 Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. I find that's not enough, especially for pieces that are really saturated like this. So I've got my setting at 300. It's probably be a good idea to have like a temperature thermometer inside of this, but I don't think it's really all that crucial. You'll know when it's cured and when it's not. So anyway, and I'm going to set it for 20 minutes. And it's on bake. And I'll show you how much smoke rolls out of this and why you shouldn't do this in your house, because your wife will probably be really, really mad at you. So I'm going to actually turn the fan on when this starts, just to push it out of the shop. I've got both doors open, so I've got good ventilation here. We'll see here in a few minutes. It also helps if you plug it in. It'll be a long time if you don't plug it in. So I don't know if you can see the smoke coming out of there. I think it needs to actually sit a little bit longer. I'm going to let it run for another 10 minutes. I can actually see the fluid still dripping out of that one piece in the back. So it's not done yet. Yeah, there's quite a bit of resin down on this little tinfoil tray that I put in there so it wouldn't get on any of the elements. Well, it looks pretty clean anyway. This stuff that's on the bottom side of it's not a real big deal to clean off. So that works out well. I'll be able to clean that up easy enough before we do any casting with that. Yeah, I think it's all set. Good stuff. I got one more to go. You see the smoke going out of there now? Can you imagine that in your house? Mama wouldn't be happy. That's only been 5 minutes. So our pieces are out of the toaster oven, and all I've done is taken them over on the belt sander and just cleaned off any material that was on the rack that left lines on the piece. I mean, check that out. That's an example of what we're going to get out of this. Incredibly heavy compared to what they were. That is for sure. I mean, look at that figure there. So there is some issues. I got to get down in here, clean all this out. I don't want to leave that behind. I'll do my best to get it out of there as well. And I'm going to just quickly go along any of the deep crevices that I can with the brass brush again. And then we will get these locked down in place and mix up some resin. We're going to use the Pro Series this time. Up until now we've been using the deep cast. This is about 1 inch, so it should work just fine. So Pro Series this time. Alright, so it's color time, and I mean, any of these would be neat. These are actually some of my favorites. I don't have the rainbow blue in here, but you know, I think that we haven't done magenta yet, so that's what we're going to do here. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of mother of pearl with it, just to make sure that we got lots of pearl effect in this. There isn't a lot of red in this piece. There is on one side, but that may end up disappearing as it goes, as we turn it away. Anyway, we'll find out. But it's magenta it is. That crystal purple though, like that. I think I'll probably get shot if I use another blue though. Stop using blue. Sorry, can't help it, I love it. Hope you're enjoying the video so far. This is inside the vacuum chamber, and you can see that the resin has a ton of air in it. So, you know, it's a good demonstration that we should probably degas resin every time we use it, just to get rid of the massive amounts of air that's in it, even though it looked like it didn't have it. All right, so I don't know, this is probably not going to be enough. We'll see. Certainly is not going to use as much as the previous two because, of course, this burl has been stabilized. So I'll go with this first, and then we'll see what else it needs after that. Some air in the resin, not a huge amount. This is already starting to get warm, so they're going to mix up another batch. Alright, so this is another 24. It should give us lots. I can't afford to have this resin drop below the wood, so it's probably going to be a little resin heavy. This thing's only about an inch and 1/8 in thickness, the wood. So I can't have it really any skinnier than that, or else we could have some issues when we put it on the lathe, and we don't want to lose this beautiful piece of wood. Anyway, there's about, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch of resin on the very top of that. That's fine. Big noticeable difference. There is some bubbles coming up from below, but the first one that we did, it was just bubble crazy. And that's probably where we ended up with some bubbles in the resin on the very first one with the ghost pigment. Anyway, I'm going to get a torch and just burn off any bubbles we've got here. We'll let this sit for a while. This detail is really what I'm going for, and hopefully that's down in there. And you know, I might just give this some swirl. I know where the areas are, and I might just give this some swirl here in a little bit, just to give it some swirl. You can definitely see some bubbles still coming up. There's some areas that probably the stabilizing resin didn't get to, so this will drop a little bit, but it certainly is not going to drop like we seen in the pressure pot last week. Anyway, this should be ready to go in the morning. See you then. Alright, it's the next day. Check out that snake pattern. That's what I'll call it anyway. Kind of reminds me of a snake skin. This actually cured very quickly. Talking to the owner last night of Designer Epoxy, he said that, you know, this stuff is fine to pour at 1 inch, but it really depends on the volume. There's a lot of volume here, and this really got hot quite fast, and it actually cured up. Like, I probably could have turned this 3 hours after it was poured. But this is the first time that I've ever seen any of the Designer Epoxy get hot, and it's just because it was just such a thick pour of the Pro Series. If this was the deep cast, it doesn't even get warm at all when it cures. There are some bubbles here, and I'm hoping that they're just on the surface, they're not down inside. Anyway, it was a bit of an experiment, and we'll see if it pans out. Hopefully it does. Let's see if we can get this out. Sweet. Oh yeah, look at that pattern. Pattern goes all the way through. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Pretty surprising that this didn't get down in here. Must be just because it's set up so fast. Regardless, I think it should look pretty cool. Let's get it on the lathe. 475, 475. I'm guilty of not showing enough real-time turning, so I thought I'd leave that in there to give you an idea how rough it is when you first start. And I'm wearing a glove because that resin coming off there can be painful. And I started with the 5/8 bowl gouge. This is the Easy Width finisher, and you'll see the rougher here very shortly as well. So I'm using all of these tools, just trying to find out what's working the best, just to get her done. All right, what do you think so far? Very, very cool pattern in this. I did give it a little bit of a swirl before I left last night, but that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically turn this platter pretty much to its finished size, get the glue block on the bottom of it, trim it all up, and then whatever needs to be filled, I'll do that today, and we'll finish it off tomorrow. Regardless, I mean, look at this. When this is polished, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Can't wait. So anyway, I'm just going to keep going at her here. I also had a subscriber mention that they'd like to see me actually turn a bowl in real time. And you know, that's not a bad idea. A lot of the times with these instructional videos that I do, they seem to really eat up a lot of time. And I have to speed up the footage in order to make it a reasonable length. And I mean, this one's 57 minutes long, so a lot of people are saying, "You think that's reasonable?" So anyway, I will try and put up one like that through the week. Some week. If it's your first time here watching any of my videos, you'll see that I've got the finisher up on its side sometimes. I'm just really trying to find the best way that it wants to cut and the cleanest way that it's going to cut. Just because a tool is designated to be used a certain way doesn't mean that it's going to work other ways. So anyway, that's why I'm doing that. So here we're prepping the bottom for the glue block. Again, I use hot melt glue on a waste block. And once it's mounted, it gets turned outboard. And the reason I'm working outboard is because I'm left-handed. So I work on left-hand threads on the outboard end. Here I'm just using some 60 grit to make sure that the hot melt glue has a good tooth to grab a hold of. All right, so what do you think about it so far? Pretty darn nice. This magenta actually really goes with the red that's naturally occurring in Boxelder. We got some pretty decent cracks though, or not cracks, voids. And if I had to put, you know, if I had to say what it is, I would say that it's because the resin cured just too fast. It didn't allow the air to escape. That's one of the benefits of deep cast, because it'll take 2 hours before it'll really start to do anything. So that gives a lot of opportunity for bubbles to come out of the resin. I don't know. Tell me what you think. That's what I think it is. I don't think that it's a reaction between the other resin and this resin, because they're not made by the same company. So yeah, I mean, that's probably what it is. These are pretty big pockets, and I can't imagine air coming out of that stabilized wood would make such a large bubble like that, but you know, you never know. Anyway, I've got some more mixed up, 15 milliliters of it, and I'm just gonna pour it in these little holes here, and then I've got some duct tape over here that I've already cut off and ready to go. So after I fill the hole, I'll just put the duct tape over it so it doesn't flow out, and then we'll put this in our clean room overnight and get at it in the morning, along with the crows. That's probably the biggest one right there. So I'm just going to drop it in with this. I think that that's probably going to be the best way to do it. There's hardly any on the front side of this. There, that should keep that in place, and we can keep rolling this thing around and working on it. No shortage of mosquitoes either. A couple of big ones there. And yeah, you know what? I could have used the CA glue like you've seen me use in the past. But these some of these holes are pretty big, and I think it's probably best to use the resin in this instance. There's a piece that was kind of borderline rotten that the stabilizing resin did a pretty decent job of hardening up. But I'm just going to take this and kind of dump it on top of it, and hopefully it'll fill in any of the holes that are there. Not really need it. This is an area where you could have used the thin CA glue for sure. It might end up being turned away to solid wood anyway. Anyway, that's it. I'm just going to throw that in the clean room, and we'll see you in there tomorrow. All right, so it's the next day, and we've got all of our holes filled in that were there. Same thing along here. Anyway, it all looks good. Let's just true the back side up and kind of put our finished profile on here, then we'll move to the front. 1,000. 1,000. If you have any video suggestions, something that you'd like to see, by all means, comment down below and tell me what you want. I know there's probably a bunch of people who want to see sharpening, and I do plan on doing a sharpening video. It will probably be one of these little quick videos that I'll try and put up through the week. But these quick videos end up being long videos. So, but anyway, that one shouldn't be too bad. Very nice. But we do have some holes. A couple in here. Not too many. That looks more like a chip out. So I just got a few of these to fill. I don't know if these are ones that I filled and maybe there was an air pocket inside of them. I'd have to look at the footage again to see if it's actually where I filled it. So anyway, you've seen me do this before. So I've got some thin CA glue inside of a 2-ounce bottle. And what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this magenta and just a tiny little bit of mother of pearl and put it in with this. Try not to mix it too strong. Just want to have a look at the color before I add any more. A little goes a long way. Just a tiny bit more. There, that should be good for that. Just the tiniest little bit of mother of pearl. Not very much at all. There, I'd say that looks really close. Again, I'm going to use the accelerator to set it in place. Starbond. There's a link in the description for 15% off your next order. Just use code INLAYGYM at checkout. Now, I know for sure that if I had to use deep cast instead of the Pro Series, that I would not be dealing with these bubbles. And you know, this was kind of an experiment by me. I wanted to see actually how far I could push the Pro Series. But you know, there was so much of it, it got so hot, so fast, that it cured a lot faster than it ordinarily would do. And that's why we're dealing with bubbles right now. But if I had to use the deep cast, we probably wouldn't have had any bubbles at all. So, you know, it's a lessons learned thing. And now I know what I can and cannot do with that. And of course, you can use the stuff up to 1 inch thick, the Pro Series, but you know, it just depends on its volume. If it's just a small little area that you have 1 inch, that's fine. But if you have a lot of resin like this, it just creates too much heat too fast, and then you end up with bubbles. That's all right. This thing will look absolutely perfect when it's done. This is when it's polished, it's going to look really fantastic. But this is where we're going to really see how close of a match we've got here. I'm spraying it from distance to try and limit how much foaming we're going to get. I just want to keep moving around this piece and working on it. Yeah, and someone commented that they were having issues with stabilized wood and wood bowl finish. I'm sorry, I can't remember who made that comment. So it's kind of got me a little worried. I am going to use the salad bowl finish by General Finishes when I put on the first coat here. And they said they're having issues with it adhering to the stabilized wood. So we'll find out if that's going to be an issue. Hopefully it isn't. Because if it is, I'm not sure exactly even how I would go about that. But besides using another type of finish, obviously. But I believe they said they had to use a wax. And a wax just really wouldn't do this justice, I don't think. Anyway, that looks about it. I'll just give this another quick trimming and then we'll sand it up. Back again with the 3.5-inch dimple discs from sandpaper.ca. I like to get the discs in the bulk sizes, so you can get 50. 50 comes in the bulk sizes, and I think that's probably the best value for your money. Just use code InlayJim at checkout to get 10% off. Sandpaper.ca, check them out. Here I'm using just a little block, sanding block, just to try and level things out. I'm just having all kinds of issues, just trying to keep things level. People are probably going to ask where this come from, and to be honest with you, I don't know. It might have even been my mother's. That's how old this thing is. Regardless, it seemed to work really well. All right, so that's sanded to 220. I'm just going to do a final little filling on some small holes that are in here. There. Not very big. Then we'll get her back on the lathe and finish sanding up. Can't wait to see what this is going to look like. I'm going to get some finish on it. Back in a minute. Here I'm just sanding out the cured CA glue that I used for the filling. It's best to do it this way. If you try and run the lathe and just sand it off that way prior to this, it's not going to work. You're going to have CA glue left behind. And then we're just going to buff this out with Triple E and be the final step before finish. First coat of salad bowl finish by General Finishes. Still finishing up cans of this. Now this has been a bit of a nightmare trying to sand and to try and keep flat without any divots in it. The stabilized burl is a lot harder than the resin is, so it's just been a struggle to try and keep it without any little lumps and bumps in it. So I've power sanded it and I've used that little block. Boys, I don't know what else I could have done. I think it's pretty good. I know one thing, this magenta really matches the rest of the red staining in this from the fungus. Beautiful. Big difference in the burl, uniform color throughout it, and that's because it was stabilized. This is pretty darn amazing, actually. Anyway, I'll get this done. I'll get it off and we'll have a look at it here. What do you think of that? Beautiful stuff. Now I'm hoping this is only going to take 2 coats, but I don't know. Probably not. I'm running out of time here. This video might be late. Look at that there on the back side. Beautiful stuff. Here I'm using 4-0 steel wool between coats. It seemed to work the best. Well, good morning. This is the 2nd coat of salad bowl finish by General Finishes. Anyway, if there is another coat goes on, I'm just going to do the same thing that I did before. 4-0 steel wool, put another coat on. For sure 3 coats will do it. Anyway, I'll see you when we're doing the bottom. I do have some Osmo gloss coming. I actually should have been here yesterday, so I don't know why it didn't show up. Anyway, when it does, I will showcase that on here as well, because I am running out of this salad bowl finish by General Finishes, and I'm going to need something to replace it. Now, if you've been here for a while, you'll know that I did use the Mohawk stuff. I'm just finding it very difficult to work with. So, looks like I'm going to have to be still looking. So if you in there, you know of a gloss, food safe finish, let me know. Anyway, this is awesome. Absolutely beautiful. That pearl in there. Imagine. Beautiful stuff. All right, so here we are after the 2nd coat. Now, there are some areas in this that almost feel like they're not cured. There's a spot right there, and I'm hoping the camera, there, you see it? Right there. And even bigger spots on the back side. Here's a big spot here. Again, I'm just trying to get the light to hit that correctly so that you can see it. There, right there, see it? So I don't know what the deal is with that. If it was the whole piece, I would say, okay, maybe it's a reaction between the stabilizing resin, maybe combined with the Pro Series resin, and that's why the finish isn't sticking to it. But it's not. It's sticking fine to the Pro Series. It's sticking fine to the majority of our work so far. So, the only thing I can think is maybe it's uncured stabilizing resin. Now, I cooked this for a long time, and that should not be the case. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use any steel wool on this. I'm just going to use Triple E, and hopefully I can generate enough heat that it will cure it. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but at this point it's too late. I mean, it's not like I can put this in the oven now, if that is the issue. Anyway, let's stop talking about it and get it done. All right, let's hope this works. I'm not sure what our next move is going to be if it doesn't. It sure looks pretty now. It is a little humid. That could be messing with it, but I don't think it's that humid. Yeah, I know somebody else was saying that they were having issues with it. And, well, with stabilizing resin, and I think it was wood bowl finish that they were using. Solid bowl finish, it's the same thing. Anyway, hopefully it works. Well, that's it. We're out of time. As you can see, I still got the glue block on the bottom of this. It's got 4 coats of solid bowl finish on it, and it's just not there. It's not where to the level that I want it to be. There are some areas in this that are still kind of, I'm not going to say they're sticky, but they're not normal. And it's certainly better than it was, for sure. I mean, look at that resin. That magenta. I actually really love all this. That pearl in there is just fantastic. This is where we did a lot of filling with the CA glue. Probably might even see a little bubble there. Regardless, I mean, look at that. That is a fantastic, fantastic piece. Stabilizing resin leveled out the color of all this. I'll throw some shots up at the end of the 3 platters that I've done, and you'll see the big variations in color in these. And this is probably more true to form. This is probably how it should look. So what do I think is wrong with the finish? I believe it's a stabilizing resin. Either the stabilizing resin hasn't cured fully, which I find that hard to believe. It was cooked for a long time, so that really shouldn't be the case. Or it's just simply reacting with the solid bowl finish. That might be all it is. You know, there's a lot of finishes out there. I might even try a resin pour on this, but I don't know. The resin pours look really, really heavy. If you had a really thin resin, then maybe, you know, it might work out, and maybe that's what I'll do. But geez, I don't want to try it on this piece. I really don't. Anyway, regardless, I'll figure it out, and I will let you guys know either in a short video or I'll tack it on to the next video. One way or another, we'll get to the right end of this. But regardless, I mean, that's a fantastic piece. Absolutely fantastic. And when the finish is all sorted out, it's probably going to be my favorite one, I would think. Amazing stuff. And it is around 14 inches, and I think we're at about 3/8. Yeah, around 3/8 I think is the thickness. So anyway, let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. I will put all the pictures up at the end, all the platters that I've done, so you can compare them. Don't forget about our sponsors in the description down below. Designer Epoxy, again, with this fantastic magenta and mother of pearl pigment. Super fantastic. Sandpaper.ca, I was even the flat sheets to do this, that was coming from them too, so you can get everything involved in sandpaper from them, so make sure you check them out. Starbond Adhesives, wouldn't be able to go forward without being able to fill all those little holes. So there's quite a few big voids in there too that it filled. So it did a fantastic job. And of course our new sponsor, Hunter Tool Systems. So anyway, in the description down below will be all your discount codes to them. So make sure you check them out and give them some love. Anyway, I will let you know about this. Until next time, take care, stay safe. Don't forget that bell and don't forget that thumbs up. That will certainly help beat the analytics. See you in the next one.